Hey guys, hey everyone. Figured I'd give you a little more detail on how the show went down last night. That was, for those of you watching later, the episode called Night Raider of Alone Season 6. A little more backstory and details. So obviously I got the moose, which gotta say was one of the most intense days of my life. It was crazy. Everything from shooting the moose to, you shoot it and you can't run after it right away. You gotta wait a while. So I wait an hour, then go track it, and then you lose the tracks, lose the blood trail. Then, I knew you figured since I had a lung shot, if I stayed, I figured the moose wouldn't run uphill because it was wounded, so I just followed the shoreline, and sure enough, stumbled across it. So I went from the horror of having lost the blood trail to the joy of finding the moose, then to the horror of hiding while the thing, he was probably 50 yards away or so, definitely out of bow shot, and I couldn't get any closer. I knew that if I tried, it would either charge me or get up and run off, and I would never find it. So just waiting, and it was you saw at the end there where it stood up. I thought, oh my goodness, it's gonna run away after 2 hours of sitting here watching it. But then it fell over and died, and all the joy of that. Just an up and down day. It was crazy. But we got all that, got the moose, got it back to camp, and then and then the next phase of the journey was trying to protect and preserve all that meat. I initially, as you saw, hung a bunch in my shelter and just started smoking all the the 2 hindquarters and the 2 shoulders I hung up in there, and some other chunks, and just had them all smoking, while I also simultaneously would just cut smaller slices off and hang them in there also, so that I was smoking both smaller strips and big chunks, just getting as much as smoke on as much of the meat as I could, and then just trying to wait till it got cold enough. So that was, of course, a concern. I eventually got most of it smoked, and I would take it back out and set it on the shelf that you see in the show, and I found a, it looked like a bleach bottle. It had been all chewed up, but it was a gallon jug, plastic jug, and just packed as much kidney fat, which is just pure fat off of the moose, into that gallon jug and set it up on my shelf. It was next to my in earshot of my shelter. I figured that I would hear anything if it came, and then for 2, I can't say I was expecting wolverines at all. In all my experience in Siberia, I always heard about them, and trappers would talk about how they were such a nuisance and stuff, but I actually never came across them, so they just seemed so rare. I wasn't expecting a visitor, but I saw the tracks, and I was like, wait a second, it was all intermixed with wolf tracks around my camp. So initially I was like, there's a wolf track, and then I was like, what's that 5 pod one? And then started to think, and I was like, oh, it must be a wolverine. I don't know anything else with 5 toes like that. So, but all that tracking was the morning after. I was completely caught off guard. I had set my fat up on that shelf where I figured foxes and wolves couldn't get to it, but Wolverine showed up unexpectedly. I didn't wake up, and came out in the morning, and it just slowly dawned on me. I was like, where did I put that gallon jug? And then I was like, did I hang it in a tree? Just slowly, I was like, no way, did that thing really steal it? And sure enough, it looked like a stampede of wolverines had been there. Just everything was trampled. I followed the super highway that they had made out, and followed it a ways. Of course, it's, who knows how, I thought there's a slim chance I could come across maybe my jug or something just to confirm he had stole it all, but I gave up on that pretty quickly. Went back, just couldn't believe it. I was like, man, that thing, now it knows where all the food's at too. It's like, oh, Wolverine, I don't even know what to do to stop these guys. So I didn't, then I was a lot more alert since I knew that there was one around and I knew he'd be back. So I didn't lose a lot of meat after the initial attack where he stole so much fat, but he did keep coming back, and I would like chase him off, but I never really got a good look. I'd make those cans and stuff like that that would give me an alert. Then one night, and this was the night where I came in and said I had a run-in with Wolverine, I went out and with my flashlight, and boom, he was right behind a bush, probably 10 yards from me. It's like, no way. I had my bow, and I was just waiting for him to move out from behind the bush so I could get a shot. I lost sight of his eyes, because his eyes were shining in the light, and to be honest with you, I just don't even know what happened to him. He was there, and then he was gone, and I was just like, holy crap. Well, of course, by then I definitely knew it was a Wolverine, and he was onto me, so I was extra alert. It seemed like that went on from time to time, issues with him. I can't remember how many days. It's probably on the show. But anyway, at one point, it was the next day after I had that run-in, I was out scraping my moose hide. And, I'm thinking Wolverines are nocturnal, so it didn't even cross my mind that he was going to show up. And then scraping a moose hide, and I heard a sound. I looked over, and he was running, probably 30 yards from me, just heading over towards my shelf. I was like, no way. And so I ran over there. I actually took a quick shot at him with the bow, but he was running and he was far away, but I was still trying to get him. Missed. He took off, but I was like, oh man, this guy is stubborn. At that point, I knew he was gonna be back soon, and so that's when I set up the cans, the warning system all around, and I told the camera, like, I think it's going to go down tonight, because I just knew he was going to be back. He was that stubborn where he'd show up in the middle of the day while I was being noisy and outside. It's like he doesn't care about me. So I kind of got ready, got my bow and arrow and stuff, set it up next to my shelter, and I was just sitting there, as you see, talking away, and then sure enough, I heard the clank. Oh man, that means he's on he'd always run the same path, so I knew he was gonna come up that little super highway he had made and come in the back way to my shelf. So I got up, was waiting. Sure enough, I saw him scurrying along. And he was kind of behind some bushes, but I didn't want it to be like the night before where I was waiting for the right shot and didn't take a shot. So as soon as I felt like I had a pretty good shot, it was pretty dusky, it was hard to see, but I just took it, and it happened where it shot through the bushes. I don't know if the arrow deflected at all or what, but it shot through the bushes, went through the Wolverine's leg, and then stuck into the ground, but made it so that the front and the back of the arrow were pretty secure, at least for momentarily, enough to where I could look, and I saw him like spin around, and I was, no way. And then I turned back, grabbed my axe. It was like, all happened so fast. I can't say I had any time for fear or hesitation or anything. It was just I'd worked the moment up so much in my head after getting robbed by that guy so much, and that I just knew we were gonna have a confrontation. So when it happened, I was just like, poof, grabbed my axe, ran over there. He was like spinning on the arrow and snarling, and my first swing, he was jumping around, swung, and it disemboweled him. I was like, and then swung again, hit him in the back of the head, and then just swung again and hit him a whole bunch, and he was dead before he knew it. I was lucky he stayed on his arrow, but yeah, we were having a hard time sharing space, so it had to happen, I guess. But it was pretty crazy. I gotta admit, like, I felt like in a a slight state of like disbelief and shock. Like, wow, I can't believe that just happened. I think it was pretty surreal. Definitely not what I was expecting, but in the back of my mind, I was like, man, yeah, I didn't think it might really tear me up, but it's not gonna kill me. I'll definitely no 40 or 50 pound animal is gonna kill me. It might send me home, but I thought I'd get the better of it. Fortunately, those first few swings with the axe were true, and that didn't get a hold of me. But yeah, it was pretty intense, man. That crazy. Anyway, that was the detail of kind of how it went down. Arrow stuck in through bushes and into the ground made a pretty and through his leg made a pretty solid pinpoint for at least a moment. But he tried to get at me. He was definitely wanted to get his revenge. It was a serious moment. But sorry. The amount after that, I gotta say, I felt so relieved. I was like, oh my goodness, I could sleep again, because I had all that moose meat, so I was feeling pretty good. But I also knew if I was under assault every night, I wasn't gonna be sleeping, and I was gonna be just slowly watching everything I had get packed off. So I knew I needed to do something. Got the Wolverine. I was so relieved. Felt so good. But going by the sheer number of tracks, I assumed Wolverines were solitaire, but I wasn't sure. And so I thought another one might show up. I don't know. So I built that Labus, which was something I was pretty, I hadn't planned on building one of those. It's a lot of work and a lot of calories, but I was under enough assault that I was like, man, I gotta do something. If I hung the meat just in the trees, the birds would just peck away at it all the time, and there's a lot of exposed fat that days and days of just birds pecking all the time, you actually lose quite a bit. So I had to do something. Built a cache. You can see how I set up the scaffolding there. A little nervous about following the one big tree they show. You can see though I pried a stick between, because it was kind of leaning back a little bit towards me. But I cut a wedge, obviously, in the tree and pried a stick between the tree behind it and that tree so that there was pressure pushing it that way. So as soon as it started to fall, it pushed the tree that way. It worked really well. That was nice. It was nice to get that tree down without it hitting my scaffolding and sending me flying. Then, yeah, as you can see, just cut some wedges. Made it. It was about 12 feet tall, and felt really good about it. Honestly, I felt really accomplished at the end of that day, because when you start building one of those things, I was like, man, I can't believe I'm going to be tackling this project. And then, sure enough, your hands do what your eyes are afraid of, and I was done before you know it. And then in one day, I got it built. I built a ladder, which I also thought was a good idea. Kind of thought of while I was out there, but you see, I dovetailed the one end of the ladder, but on the other side, if you do dovetails on both sides of the rails, it's actually really hard to fit together. You got to get them all to line up and pound together as you go. So I did the dovetail on the one side so that the rails wouldn't twist at all, and on the other side, I notched and tied it. So it was a lot quicker to build, but it had the strength of the dovetail, and that was, I thought, a pretty good idea. I was happy with that. So there I was, set up to see what happens next. That's the end of episode Night Raider, as it was called. And yeah, crazy moments, but there you go. Thanks for watching. That's a little bit more detail on how it went down.